Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We know the other session was wrapping a little late, so we started a little late. Hope that's all okay. Thank you and welcome. This is incredibly exciting. Thank you to our esteemed government colleagues, our dear friends, and our partners. And welcome to this kickoff session of Solutions Day for the Transforming Education Summit, where we're going to talk about the Learning Passport. We have some incredible insights and examples from the colleagues here seated with me. So let's jump right to it. My name is Mac Levinsky. I'm the Global Chief of the Learning Passport. I work for UNICEF here in New York City. But I'm joined by much more exciting people. To my left here is Mr. Sitong Sakau, who is the Deputy Director General of Planning from the Ministry of Education and Sport in Lao PDR. I'm joined by my good friend Justin Spellhog, who is the Global Head and Vice President of Technology for Social Impact at Microsoft. And we're very lucky to have with us the Honorable Minister for Primary and Secondary Education in Zimbabwe, Dr. Evelyn Ndlovu, and then virtually from Mexico, we have Dr. Juan Pablo Arroyo Ortiz, who is the Vice Minister of Upper Secondary Education in the Mexican government. Welcome, all of you, and welcome again, friends. Well, so we plan on this being a bit of an exciting session, not to fly our own flags here. We will hear some real insights about the Learning Passport from the most important people in the Learning Passport universe, the governments themselves, and our critical partners in making this program a success for the many children around the world. You'll hear a bit from me about what the Learning Passport is. Hopefully we can answer that question quickly. Hopefully I know about that. We will hear from Justin about the beginning of the partnership, which is really transformational and new, and it's something that we are in UNICEF and in Microsoft very proud of, particularly in our ability to support our government colleagues here. We'll hear, of course, from the representatives of the ministries. That's really what the show is about today. But then we'll talk about some really exciting things that are coming in the future. I will try not to get too excited because I often do, but we think it's really exciting, and some updates about what's to come. Welcome again. So to kick things off, we will cut to a short video about the Learning Passport, and then we will jump into the program. Thank you.
This is what school should look like, but sometimes, due to wars, natural disasters, disease outbreaks, or crises, school can go away in an instant. UNICEF has a long history of providing education in times of crisis. Temporary learning centers address important needs. Schools in a box are valuable tools. But now, from UNICEF, in collaboration with partners, comes a life-changing innovation for children and young people, the Learning Passport.
Estoy yendo a la escuela presencial porque esta enfermedad vino que se llama COVID-19 y ya por medio ya no he ido hace mucho tiempo.
The Learning Passport is an education solution that helps children continue learning from anywhere at any time. It's highly flexible and adaptable for teachers and students, customized for each country's language and cultural context. Powered by Microsoft and partners, it can provide access to quality curricula on virtually any digital device.
I think that the learning platforms helps us as students to be able to get more information about the certain subjects you're doing and different kinds of other subjects we missed out during the lockdown.
The Learning Passport also has an offline model to enable those located in low to no connectivity areas to continue their education. helping bridge the digital learning gap.
Pues el Learning Passport me parece que es una excelente opción, una innovación, porque contiene, como le mencionaba al inicio, videos, contiene todas las situaciones que el niño necesita para poder implementar, mejorar su lectura, mejorar su escritura, mejorar todas esas habilidades que queremos en español.
And the Learning Passport allows children to record and track their progress to help ease the process of re-enrollment when children are resettled. The Learning Passport is currently being used in over a dozen countries by more than 1 million children, teachers, and young people.
It's one of the most exciting developments for education in Timor-Leste in the past year of turmoil.
Every child has the right to an education. All children have big dreams.
وهذا الشيء ساعدني انه كوسيله لتحقيق حلمي لانه حلمي انا اللي هو pediatrician.
Me gustaría estudiar robótica porque yo quiero hacer robots.
The Learning Passport helps keep those dreams on track.
Beautiful, thank you. So a quick word on the format here. We will have a discussion between Justin and I to talk a bit about where the Learning Passport has been and where it's going. We will then open the floor to some questions to our honorable ministry colleagues. Justin will engage in a rapid fire question session, which is bound to be very exciting. And then we'll talk a bit more about the way forward, followed by a Q&A session. I'll give you some more instructions about the Q&A as we approach that. So to begin our first section, Justin, over to you.
Thanks, Mac. And I'm going to make my questions progressively harder, but let's start with the basics here. And let's start with talking about what Learning Passport actually is. Over to you, Mac.
So UNICEF has a long history in education, over 75 years. We've been working around the world. But before the Learning Passport, we lacked a real flagship learning technology platform. It was a gap that we really saw globally. And there's a learning crisis. I think that for those of us in the opening panel, Mr. Sachs was quite clear. 2 out of 3 10-year-olds cannot read a simple sentence. And the learning crisis means we need new approaches to reach kids and improve learning. And so that's where the Learning Passport comes in. It is powered by Microsoft, a tool called Microsoft Community Training. Largely it is powered by a unique partnership between UNICEF and Microsoft, two large players in the space, to deliver a flexible, adaptable, and context-specific learning platform that is available online, like a web application. It's available mobile, and most importantly, it's available offline, so bringing digital learning experiences without the internet, which is something that I'm very excited about, but we'll get to later. The real point of the Learning Passport is, and we'll hear from the colleagues, it's deployable in a way that can meet the needs of a different country in a specific context, and we've seen that really underlined throughout the last few years. So a question to you, Justin. You've been here since the very beginning, before me, before my time. Tell us about how the partnership on the Learning Passport started.
Yeah, happy to. And as many may know, education is a big focus for Microsoft. We have over 30 different products and services built for education, from OneNote for the classroom, Teams for classroom, Minecraft with 35 million kids and teachers engaged in 112 countries. But as we just heard from Professor Sachs, the reality is that hundreds of millions of children are being left behind in terms of digital education, and that is a fact. And so our strategy at Microsoft was to look at how can we create a capability and a partnership to reach those that we're not reaching today. And that's where this came together in partnership with UNICEF. And we actually started by looking at one of the most vulnerable communities in the world, arguably, and that is refugees. 35 million children today are refugees. Half of them are school-aged. Half of them are girls who are the most marginalized often in these communities. And with UNICEF, we began to study the Rohingya, in fact, and understand the environments that we would need to adapt technology for children who are on the move, for children who are in semi-connected or no connected states, for children that do not have laptops or do not have PCs that are mobile first, for children that do not have IT support. How do we create technology in that environment? We worked with Microsoft Research and our India Development Center to pull a technology called Microsoft Community Training. It's built on our cloud services called Azure, but it's designed to work in low bandwidth, resource-constrained environments on basic feature phones and deliver education content of any kind to anybody, anywhere. We coupled that with a strategic partnership with UNICEF, the largest organization on the planet working on child welfare and education. And together, we've been rolling this out, starting with refugees. But I do have to say that the pandemic changed everything, right? And so, Mac, maybe you can talk a little bit about how that shifted our priorities.
It's true. It was unprecedented times call for unprecedented solutions. And I think that the pandemic really showed us that we had to think differently and we had to act fast. Almost overnight, the demand on our teams became immense. But sitting in my seat as the head of the team, I realized that I had two things at my disposal. One was UNICEF's operational presence in 128 countries around the world where it has programs, so we were everywhere. And two, we had technology underneath us that was hyper-scalable. We could meet the needs as they came. And from there, we then started to do it in days. But during that time, Justin, and you may never be my friend after that time because we were throwing crazy requests to you every hour or two. How did you manage what was coming in from our side?
Well, I think as most of the folks in this room probably had to respond to, digital learning needs went through the roof day one in the pandemic, and we set up war rooms across Microsoft to scale all of our services, Learning Passport, MCT, Teams, Azure for remote desktops and everything else. And the focus was trying to provide an environment where kids could continue to learn even though they could not get into the classroom or could not get into the classroom on a frequent basis. And I think we've now moved from a pandemic crisis response mode to thinking about how do we build resilient capabilities in an endemic world where we're going to have to live with this virus and then live with all of the other challenges, and we need a resilient technological system that supports that. And I think we're actually in a good position with this program and this capacity. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we need to do more and we need to do it faster. I think from UNICEF's own research, and as Professor Sachs was highlighting, before the pandemic, the rate of 10-year-olds that couldn't read a simple paragraph in low and low to middle income countries was 57%. After 24 months of the pandemic, that increased to 72%. In sub-Saharan Africa, 9 of 10 kids can't read a simple paragraph, and that is what we term, or UNICEF terms, as learning poverty, and that drives everything. And so we've got to do more, we've got to do faster, and we've got to do it together, Mac. But would really like to reflect, maybe have you reflect on some of the other lessons that you may have learned along the way here.
We've learned quite a bit, I must say, and I've lost quite a bit of hair on the journey. But there's some key things that have really stood out. One is the value of partnership. We couldn't have done this with just anyone. We needed to pick the most serious, dedicated, and talented players in the space, like Microsoft. And that's really been a cornerstone to the success of the partnership and the delivering on the promises that we wanted to make. And we also needed a partner that believed. Like everything was so uncertain, we needed people to believe with us in a vision. And I think that was very powerful. I think another major lesson was the value of context. The needs in Laos are not the same as the needs in Zimbabwe or Mexico or any of the countries we're working in, and we needed to be responsive to those needs. That was critical. Flexibility. We had an incredible, flexible team of driven professionals on all sides of the house that were really able to deliver in uncertainty. And I think that was incredible to see. And lastly, and most importantly, we knew that we were working for learners, we were working for teachers, we were looking for our brothers and sisters in the governments that we work with, and that they needed to be at the center of our ability to solve problems fast, to offer support in diverse ways, and really to help in climbing that mountain that we had to climb together. But besides getting to spend so much time with me in this partnership, Justin, which I'm sure is the most valuable part about it, what has been the most valuable parts to you of this partnership?
Yeah, no, certainly the most valuable single thing to come out of this are the learning outcomes of the children who have been involved. And actually the folks here on the stage sitting with me and some of them in the room are real inspirations to the work that we do. In Laos, I think we'll hear about a platform that has over 6,000 lessons set up on this platform that really enables a really robust digital learning infrastructure. We'll hear from Mexico and how we're pushing to really generate quantifiable improvements in learning outcomes. In Zimbabwe, we're doing so much work, but they're really helping us push the edge on how to create a fully offline capability where, guess what, the internet doesn't exist, and we need to be able to have capabilities that work for kids. And that is really the number one piece of value that's come out of this. But number two would be, I'd say this is a pretty good example of a public-private partnership. This is not about doing a pilot. This is a 7-year investment that we have made with a whole lot of work with countries, with ministers, and with UNICEF to create a capability that meets, I think, kids where they are, not where they're going to be in 5 years or 3 years, but where they are today with the capabilities they have today to solve what we view as the learning crisis around the world. So I think that's the second key component here. So Mac, I'm curious in terms of your take on our impact to date. What's your view on the impact that we've had from this work?
Well, there's some straight numbers. We're just about to cross 2.4 million users in 26 countries. We think that we're just getting started. Actually, I know even looking at the plans of Laos, Mexico, and Zimbabwe, we're just getting started. What we've been able to do is really support different contexts, I think. And I've said that, I kind of have been repeating myself, but I think that it's so important to really meet the needs that countries have, from help in early childhood development in Eastern Europe to vocational trainings in Lebanon, teacher capacity buildings in Timor, primary and secondary education systems like we'll hear about today. We're able to meet kids where they are, as you said. And I think that that's really important. I think that we more and more need to work with learners and national systems. I think there's no accident that our colleagues are on stage with us today. They've been leading the way in that example. And we're UNICEF. We will never forget about vulnerability. We will never forget about children that are displaced, those without the internet. And so that is something that we're really going to charge forward and really try to deliver on.
That's awesome. And I can't wait to get to the part where we talk to the countries here and hear about the great work that they've done. But before we do that, Mac, what's next? Give us a little bit of a forward view here.
Well, we're almost there.
Good.
You have almost heard enough from me. What's next is to continue to really build revolutionary technology concepts for everyone, right? It's not just for rich people that can take advantage of the best and the brightest coming out of the technology sector. It's for everyone. And I think that, we were talking this morning, Justin, they say, if you build it, they will come. We say, if you come, we'll build it. And it's something that we will continue to double down on. What we will continue to do is also work on offline the offline model of Learning Passport, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and really continue to expand the footprint, continue to deliver value, and to focus on improved learning. So with that, we'll push to another video from the colleagues at Bangladesh. And while we talked about the future, as Justin mentioned, Bangladesh was the first country in Cox's Bazar in 2017 where they started some prototypes of where we've eventually become. This just came in last week, so it's a nice round out. Over to the video.
I have to flat here after 25 August in 2017. I teach Burmese and I teach history and geography. I wanted to become a teacher because most of my community are uneducated. We are teaching to the student now all the subject that is taught in Myanmar and to speak Burmese, to be expert in Burmese also. I am one of the first teacher who test the technology app. It will help me to conduct lessons, to prepare lesson plans because there are so much teaching learning materials in the application.
Tu deteni master tablet di pora en tu ar so bisai sai ar pori bari ar bahut fana kole kulogori pori bari ar he to laboli bashi kiti eka asani cbcb pori bari to laboli bare bal lage.
If I see the students happy in my classroom, then I feel good. That's why I like using technology in the classroom. Because all the students are so excited towards learning with the help of technology. It's time for technology.
Atu science festival la de atu ga scientist point on hor level technology is the technology ham gori handila ham gori handila very ar ki call ar door elam dar call boni very
I think technology will help us to make the children understand easily. It's going to be very effective for the student. If they can continue their learning with the Myanmar curriculum, then it's going to be easy for them to return to our country, Myanmar.
It's amazing to watch that video and to think about where we've come in 4 years. So we've heard about how we've gotten here. We've heard about the beginning of the partnerships. We've heard about some of the things that we have found important, that we've learned, and that we find important. But now let's hear from the most important colleagues here with us, our ministry representatives of SELF. Thanks for joining us again, everybody. It's a real honor. So we'll start with Mr. Sakau from the experience with Kampanya in the Last People's Democratic Republic. Mr. Sakau, we know that teachers are integral. Can you tell us how you're using the Learning Passport to support teachers all the way from pre-primary through grade 12? Don't forget your microphone.
Thank you, Mac. My name is Sitong from the Ministry of Education, Laos. Good morning, everyone. And before I answer the question to Mac, I would like to maybe ask you, or you may agree with me that before we know that it is the passport, and we need this to travel. Now, we need the passport to learn, so that we have the word learning passport. So it's something new, yeah. Okay, so regarding the question about how we use the learning passport for the teacher, so as the Max said that in Lao we have the learning passport that named the Khang Panya Lao that we translate into English is the Lao Wisdom Warehouse, or another word that we call Lao Wisdom Bank, something like that. So there are a lot of, as Justin said, that there are a lot of the textbook and learning material in the Khang Panya Lao at the moment. So two of the main objective of the learning platform, is to enhance the teaching by providing additional resources to the teacher and serving as the platform for the teacher. And another objective is to enhance the digital skill for the teacher, so that we know that the teacher is the central for using the Khang Panya Lao to teach our children. So we acknowledge the teacher is the central for this key objective. So our focus will be one, to upskill the teacher to learn, for them to be the forefront of the digital learning. Teachers have faced a significant change at the moment. Before they used to teach them face-to-face. Now they have to change the way they teach the children. They have to upgrade their skill, so that we use the Khang Panya Lao to train our teacher, so that they can use the Khang Panya Lao to teach their children. So the second one, we also use the Khang Panya Lao or the learning passport to expand the access to continue professional development opportunity for the teacher. So before that, for the in-service teacher, as I said, that we use the face-to-face. Now we use the Khang Panya Lao for the in-service teacher. The teacher training college also using the Khang Panya Lao to train the new teacher, so that the new teacher can equip with the digital skill, so that they can provide the training to the new teacher, to the school principal, as well as the pedagogical advisor at the school level. So this is what we have done so far in Lao. So that the Khang Panya Lao or the learning platform in Lao is very important at the moment. As I said earlier, that before we don't know this, after we face the COVID situation, the Khang Panya Lao have played very important in the teacher profession. Thank you.
It's an incredible answer, an incredible story about how fast I think things changed in Lao. And I remember being in New York, and every week was a new update. That was more and more impressive. So congratulations, sir. It really is, it's incredible work. Okay, we'll pass to Dr. Arroyo, who is joining us virtually on the very, very big screens there. Dr. Arroyo, thanks for being with us. So Mexico will be the first country in Latin America to launch the offline model of the Learning Passport. Can you share more about your progress to date? And can you tell us about your plans moving forward, particularly to support out-of-school children using the LP offline?
Con mucho gusto. Yo soy Juan Pablo Arroyo, viceministro de Educación Media Superior, y tengo a cargo 5 millones de alumnos en todo el país, en diversos subsistemas. En México existe un alto porcentaje de jóvenes que requieren mejorar su rendimiento académico, lo cual se agravó a raíz del cierre de escuelas derivado de la contingencia sanitaria del COVID-19. UNICEF, México, la subsecretaría que dirijo y el Instituto Sinvestab desarrollaron y diseñaron cursos en conjunto con Microsoft de nivelación académica con la finalidad de fortalecer aprendizajes esenciales, reducir tasas de abandono escolar y reprobación de nivel medio superior, promover sistemas híbridos de enseñanza y aprendizaje, y fortalecer habilidades digitales en el uso de las técnicas de la información en estudiantes y profesores. La plataforma proporciona a los estudiantes y profesores acceso a recursos educativos interactivos a través de pasaporte de aprendizaje. a través de dispositivos en línea y móviles. Actualmente la plataforma Pasaporte de Aprendizaje cuenta con 12 cursos sobre las asignaturas de matemáticas, física, química, comunicación, lenguaje e inglés, apegados al plan de estudios de nuestros niveles de medio superior. Se contó con la participación de 1,000 planteles de los 7 subsistemas de la educación media superior en 32 entidades de la República. En la fase 1 se implementó, la implementación se llevó a cabo en el periodo de octubre de 2021 a febrero de 2022, con un total de usuarios activos de 24,660 estudiantes y 1,400 profesores. En la fase 2, la implementación se llevó a cabo en el periodo de marzo de 2022 a junio de 2022 y se contó con 37,527 alumnos, estudiantes y 2,275 profesores en activo. Se obtuvo el nivel de conclusión de 48% en los 12 cursos, siendo la asignatura de matemáticas la que presentó mejor desempeño con un nivel de conclusión del 66%. Los cursos son utilizados por docentes como herramientas de apoyo a las aulas por medio de uso de proyector o bien mediante el uso de computadoras y celulares o como apoyo de clases a distancia utilizando Zoom, Classroom, Teams y otras plataformas. Es una herramienta de estudio para exámenes parciales que permiten el repaso de contenidos para revisar los semestres previos y los actuales. Herramienta de estudio para regularización de periodos intersemestrales y tutorías ubicando a las y los estudiantes que presentan riesgo de reprobación utilizando la plataforma como medio de estudio y repaso. Pero una cosa muy importante es la nivelación del mismo nivel de conocimiento de todo el país, en todas las regiones, incluidas las más pobres, las más vulnerables. Para asegurar que pasaporte de aprendizaje sea una estrategia que permanezca y se configure como medio para ayudar a las y los jóvenes de medio superior a fortalecer sus aprendizajes y disminuir sus índices de reprobación, es necesario promover el uso de pasaporte de aprendizaje con todas las y los docentes estudiantes de cada ciclo escolar. Hay que integrar a las entidades y comunidades sin conectividad con pasaporte en aprendizaje en la modalidad offline y capacitar y apoyar a maestros, educadores sobre el uso de las técnicas de la información y la comunicación, estrategias didácticas innovadoras que enriquezcan la práctica de la enseñanza. Además de los resultados online, se planea dentro de los siguientes meses el inicio de un piloto de dispositivos offline. Con este proyecto se espera poder llevar pasaporte de aprendizaje a comunidades más alejadas con mayores carencias de conectividad. De esta forma, los beneficios se pueden expandir hacia quienes más lo necesitan. Con el piloto offline, México sería el primer país de Latinoamérica usando esa modalidad. Se empezará en 8 entidades de la República y se beneficiará a 70 escuelas aproximadamente en las zonas más alejadas del territorio nacional. Estas escuelas fueron seleccionadas por su condición vulnerable por las autoridades educativas. Es un gran éxito y de gran apoyo Learning Passport para nuestra educación en México. Muchas gracias.
Good morning to you all. With pleasure. My name is, I am Dr. Juan Arroyo, Vice Minister of Education of Upper and Middle Education from Mexico. And I have, under our educational system, over 5 million students, member of different educational subsystems. In terms of the Learning Passport, Mexico has a high level amount of young ones that require to improve their academic performance, which has gotten worse because of the contingency that came out of the situation related with the sanitary crisis of COVID-19. UNICEF, Mexico, SEMS, and Simvestat developed and designed different academic leveling courses with the purpose of the following: strengthening essential learnings, reducing the amount of school dropouts and failures within the superior, the upper, and middle educational levels, promoting learning hybrid systems and learnings, strengthening digital abilities with the use of the communication technologies for students and teachers as well. The platform provides students and teachers access to different interactive educational resources. And this happens through what we know now as the Learning Passport through mobile and online devices. Right now, the platform known as the Learning Passport is in Mexico, and it has 12 different courses with regards to different topics such as mathematics, physics, chemistry, communication, and English, all linked to the superior and middle level study plan. Also, we have had the participation of over 1,000 school centers over the 7 educational subsystems and 32 federative entities. During phase 1 of the Learning Passport, there was the implementation which started from October 2021 to February 2022 with a total of active users of 24,660 students and 1,397 teachers. During phase 2 of the implementation, which happened from March 2022 to June 2022, there was a total of 37,527 students and 2,275 teachers which were active in the system. There was at the end, a conclusion in terms of leveling up of 48% out of the 12 courses, which were related to mathematics, which was the one that presented the highest level of conclusion of 66%. Courses were used by the teachers as a tool for their support in classroom, through which, and the use of a projector, they were able to use computers, cell phones as a support system for their classes, and distance using Zoom sessions, classrooms, Teams, and other platforms. It was also a tool for study for the midterm exams, which were related to the possibility of them being able to review content that were already installed during previous semesters and current semesters as well. The tool was also used for study and for adjustment of the different intersemestral and tutorial periods of time during education, so that students were able of providing of using this platform to avoid the risk of failure, and using this platform as a way for them to study and review previous classes. Also, the Learning Passport was used to ensure as a strategy that we expect to be long-lasting and set forth as a way to help all young ones in middle level and superior and upper level education to strengthen their learnings and decrease their rates of failure. Therefore, we require for the use of the learning platform Passport to be promoted within all teachers and students of each school level and cycle. Also, it should be embedded in all entities and communities with or without connectivity. Learning Passport has an offline modality. Also, it should be used for training purposes, for supporting teachers, educators of all sorts, for in the use of communication technologies and educational, innovative strategies that would enrich their teaching practice. Also, the results of the use online are considered for the upcoming months, and we are expecting to apply another new pilot, which is going to be for offline devices. With this project, we expect to take the Learning Passport to communities that are more further away and have more problems with connectivity. In this way, we will get even more benefits and we will expand the use of this platform for people who really need it. With the offline pilot, Mexico will be the first country in Latin America using this modality. It will start in 8 entities, benefiting 70 schools approximately. The schools already have been chosen by the Education Authority. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. An excellent, excellent answer, and I think a real example of partnership. I think one of the interesting things about Mexico is their ability to bring different entities on board, not least of which the local Microsoft team actually played a large role in that, and I think it led to a lot of success. But also some really exciting stuff coming in the future with the offline deployments. So now, the last question is to the Honorable Minister, ma'am, Dr. Ndlu. Zimbabwe was one of the first countries to roll out the Learning Passport after school closures because of the pandemic. Your office, we were talking quite frequently, very much at the beginning, fast movers, fast responders, I think, something to really be impressed with. Can you tell us where the journey began and where you are today? And can you also tell us what you're doing to focus on gender equity and in particular girls through your program?
Thank you very much for giving me time to participate at this very important discussion on the Learning Passport, which is a tool that we embraced as a country. The journey began in 2020 as an intervention to the schools closure. We had to close schools due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and with lockdowns throughout the country. So today, the Learning Passport is being used by almost 100% of our schools. Our learners have access to this platform online and offline. What is pleasing is that we have created opportunities for the girl child. You know that in most developing countries, we have a challenge of early pregnancies, school dropouts. So the girl child is being addressed through this particular tool to make sure that they continue with their journey, their education journey. Learning does not end because of this tool. So we have had a lot of children going back to school, online and offline. What is great about Zimbabwe is that we also introduced the radios and television lessons. We uploaded a lot of material, both locally available from our curriculum and from international bases. We collected quite a lot of material and used our own teachers as ministry to make sure that that material is uploaded and is provided for the teacher. We also made sure that we do a lot of training, capacity building. It was an opportunity for us because in our syllabus for teacher training, we didn't have much of our teachers with knowledge of ICT. So it really developed us as a country intellectually, brought capacity within our teaching staff. Even at high office, our students, our learners, and those on attachment, the students, had access to this technology, which is a new phase in our systems. I want to just share with you that with the platform it's hosting on radio lessons, syllabuses, teacher guides, resources, materials that are used by teachers, the learning modules, the audio lessons with online books, videos, and interactive materials that we've uploaded. Thanks to UNICEF and other stakeholders. We are also very grateful to our local companies, especially the telecoms companies. They came in a big way and provided equipment. Up to today, we are providing laboratories at least with 30 computers, a printer, a board, and other materials, including printers and projectors. Mm-hmm. So it becomes very easy for the teacher to conduct a lesson. It started with no one-on-one with the teacher, face-to-face. And then we now have put it online to make sure that anybody can take that material and use it and learn without any teacher on your own. So it has also embraced the communities. You find that we've got champions within each village who are teaching our children, helping our children to embrace the new technology, especially the girl child who has dropped out of school. And not forgetting the boy child. We also are now targeting the boy child to make sure that the boy child also is included in this learning passport learning. There is a flexibility for the learner because the learner can make independent decisions to say, I want to study now, or I want to study in the afternoon and so forth, on his own. So it has brought in flexibility for the child to make decisions on his future. It also, the material that we've developed speaks to the learner. It makes the learner creative. Creative thinking comes into play. And they become independent. And we have developed the listening skills in our children. Because listening skills are critical for the child to understand. A teacher can come into the class and just browse through the lesson. But the learning passport facilitates the child to sit and listen now and again, to make sure that everything goes into his brain and he remembers. And anything that you listen to and you embrace, you keep within yourself. And you can actually write the exam easily because you've absorbed that material. So this is what and it has taught our children to be resilient because they are patient. Yeah? They become patient. You know, when they are young, they are very dicey, they are running around. But because of the learning passport, the concentration is changed. We've seen an upward concentration levels within our young people. We are also very grateful to our government because our government embraced this program through the approval process in cabinet to make sure that we embrace the program that was introduced to us by UNICEF and Microsoft. We are very grateful to that the government embraced the program and we coordinated very well with our partners, with our teachers. We also made sure that we we develop innovative skills within the learning community. And our community is bought into the system. And we are very grateful that when we started in 2020, the mobile application of the Learning Passport was released and launched. And it had 70,000 users only. 70,000 users only, which was 25% of the total target of 300 people. But for 2021 and upwards, we've seen quite a number of people coming online, and almost 10,147 schools are using that material. So this is a big jump in terms of the embracing the teachers and the communities coming in to support the innovative skills that your company has brought to us. We are very grateful. We're embracing the curriculum which we introduced, using this new technology so that our children are part of the 21st century community. We are very grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you to all the panelists for the very thoughtful and powerful words. So now comes the fun part. I think over to Justin for a bit of a quick fire round for some questions to the panelists.
Yeah, I do think we're a little tight on time, so I'm gonna limit it to one question, and we will, in true hybrid fashion, start with our team that's online here, and we'll start with Dr. Arroyo for the first question. And what I'd love to hear, Doctor, is what are you most excited about relative to the future of Learning Passport in your country, in Mexico, in 1 or 2 minutes?
Creo que uno de los grandes retos que tenemos en el uso de la plataforma de pasaporte de aprendizaje es lograr que llegue a la mayor cantidad de alumnos. Pero una de las lecciones que tenemos aprendidas es la importancia de la cultura digital como una cuestión indiscutible para incorporar en toda la educación. Docentes, directivos y alumnos deben de tener un nivel de cultura digital muy alto. Este es el principal aprendizaje que hemos tenido y que lo hemos logrado porque en México hemos dado ya, con apoyo de Microsoft, muchos cursos a profesores y estamos logrando un cambio tecnológico importante con ese apoyo de Microsoft.
Yes, well, I think that we have accomplished a lot. But one of the main challenges that we face with the use of this platform, the Learning Passport, is to make it be able to the majority of the people, to be able to reach the majority of the students. And one of the most important lessons learned that we have had over this period of time in which we have used it is the need for a high level of digital culture. That is why we have really worked on incorporating, with the support of Microsoft, we have gone through a lot of courses and trainings in order to work with principals, students, teachers, and we believe that we actually have been able to reach a higher level of awareness in terms of the importance of digital culture. And we know that we will continue to improve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roy. And that's such a fantastic answer because we know that while tools are helpful, teacher training, capacity building, content all need to come together to create experiences. And so thank you for that answer. I'll transition here to Mr. Sickow and would love to hear from you what maybe one of your biggest learnings has been with the deployment of Learning Passport in Laos.
Thank you again, Justin, for the question. I think the lesson learned that to have the success in using the Learning Passport, as I said before, one, we need to work with the different partners this is something that we need to do. It might be for the future as well. I think the partnership is very important, I think, to make the success of the implementation of the learning passport. And of course, also the teacher is the front line of the education. The teacher should be the main driver for using the learning passport. That they can transfer the knowledge to the student. This is a true thing that we need to think about, I think. Thank you.
Absolutely. The teacher is the anchor. And if the teacher is trained and knows how to incorporate learning passport in the curriculum, in the pedagogy, then there can be student success. But without the teacher, there's no student success. That is a great answer. So, Honorable Minister, I will leave the last question to you, which is the same question in terms of we're doing so much in Zimbabwe. But if you had to pick one learning that you think could be useful for this room over the last couple of years, what would be the learning that you would want to leave this room with?
I think the lesson that we've learned here is that the learning passport is bridging the gap between schools, and it is also taking on board every learner, leaving no one and no place behind. And we've developed a slogan there in our country to that effect, that we leave no one and no place behind. And also, I will also repeat that it speaks to the learner. The program speaks to the learner. The program makes the learner be creative and evokes curiosity of the learner. Because it's the first time to hold that, let's say, the tool that we give them. It becomes so pertinent to him, and he really values that gadgets, and the concentration improves. So this is what we should learn, that as parents, there's a revolution that is taking place in our learning system. And there's a revolution that has been embraced by parents, by the government, the parents, and the child, including the teacher. So we have brought these people together. And in the case of Zimbabwe, we have also brought in private sector to be very active in the education system. And then we have also brought in other tools other than the laptops. We've brought in the radio, we've brought in the television. So it's quite a massive program that reaches out to everybody and everywhere in the schooling system.
Thank you for that. And I think it's so important in what you said to meet communities where they are today. Not where they're going to be in 5 years or 7 years, but where they are right now, to leave nobody behind, whether it's online or it's offline. And I think in Zimbabwe, the fact that you've brought the private sector together, all of the creative partnerships that allows you to create a sustainable, scaled model is really something to learn from. So with that, Mac, I think we'll conclude the rapid fire, and I'll hand to you because I think we're going to do another video.
That was the most perfect possible setup we could have arranged. We now have a video of the offline model in Zimbabwe. Thanks, Minister, for that one.
Hello, everyone. Let us take you to a grade 6 classroom at Wesley Primary School, located in the outskirts of Harare, and see how they are using the offline version of the Learning Passport to learn a science lesson on respiration. Join us.
Hello, boys and girls. I would like you to log into the Learning Passport. You are going to watch a video which clearly explains the process of breathing in and breathing out.
The respiratory system extracts oxygen from the air, a gas our cells need to live and grow. The respiratory system also eliminates carbon dioxide.
Now, who can explain the process of respiration using the video that we have watched? Now you can click onto the quiz. You are going to answer 4 questions, and when you are done, you raise your hand. We are all done. Let us try to answer the questions one more time. We exhale oxygen out of our lungs as waste. Is it true or it's false? Yes, Michael? False. Get into groups. We are going to make sentences from the video that we have watched. Group 2, can you read out your sentence?
In the airfield located under the lungs, you fill the lungs with air in a process which is called ventilation.
That is the end of our lesson, boys and girls.
Hi, how did you find the Learning Passport lesson today?
Very interesting and easy. You get to learn a visual lesson that you hear and see what's happening to the lesson that you're learning.
How about you?
I learned that at the elevator set, they take oxygen and send it to the blood for distribution to all parts of the body, which I didn't know before I joined.
Oh, wow. Well done.
I love that video. There is no internet in that classroom. There's no phone connection. Those are learners all on their own individual experiences, looking at different parts of an application, different content, at their own pace. So it is truly something we're ecstatic about. From my perspective, and being in UNICEF as the pandemic, popped up and raged on, there was a criticism that was levied towards anyone involved in digital education, and I think it was a valid criticism. It was, what about the learners that don't have access to connectivity? They're left behind. They don't have access to these tools. There's, we would hear so much about tools and revolutionary content and exciting concepts, but for learners without the internet, they couldn't touch that, and so the digital divide widened. Despite the incredible work of many of you around the room here and of course on the table. But at UNICEF, we doubled down with our partners at Microsoft, with our incredible government and country colleagues, and we focused on the fact that access to connectivity is a part of the education journey, and if you don't have connectivity, that doesn't mean that you don't, or that you can't access a digital learning experience. And so this is the first one, actually. This is one of those boxes that was in the video in Zimbabwe. We're on the next generation now, so this is old. But it is a web experience in a box. This box creates a network. It hosts the application. Anyone with a browser, not a specific device, not a fancy phone, anything with a browser can access the network this creates and access the application on the network. That means that me and Mr. Sakau could be accessing Learning Passport without the internet, viewing different content, taking different assessments, going where we wanted to go and learn about what we wanted to learn about. So it's an incredible thing, and it creates a personalized digital learning experience. And that's something that we're ecstatic about. And there is some very fancy and new technology, both in the hardware and the software, that makes this work. But it is simple and robust enough that we want to bring this everywhere in the world. So that's what we're going to see looking forward from the Learning Passport. We're going to see a lot more digital education without the internet. We're ecstatic. I think it's going to be amazing. We're going to continue to evolve the program, of course, to work with our government partners who are incredibly critical to our success, with our foundational partners. With Justin hasn't gotten rid of me just yet. We're going to spend a lot more time together in these incredibly strong partnerships, as well as new partners that join us, because this problem is so big, there's a learning crisis is so massive that anyone that wants to have a seat at the table has a seat open for them. Sustainability, I think, is the last thing we'll hear about today, and I'll pass it back to Justin before the Q&A. Thanks.
No, I think, Mac, one of the criticisms in education technology is how do we support children offline? Another criticism often that we hear, and certainly between Microsoft and UNICEF, is that you have more pilots than Lufthansa has. And so, what are you really doing to have an impact? And it's important to note, Learning Passport is not a pilot. We're in 22 markets or more, scaling, 26, thank you, scaling. We have 13 million people on the MCT and the underlying platform. And as we scale, Learning Passport and the tool is only one part of the equation. The critical part of the equation is actually teacher readiness, teacher enablement, creating the digital content that engages the child, and integrating it into the pedagogy, making sure that the children are equipped with devices, ensuring that there's a support infrastructure behind that. And as we heard from Professor Sachs, in the least developed countries, there's a $50 billion gap in funding all of this. And so we're going to need to innovate, I think, on our business models, much as has been done in Zimbabwe with the private sector, to bring more private sector foundation, World Bank, and other partners to the table to ensure that we have structures that scale, not for 6 months or a year, but for years and years to come. And I know that we're committed to doing that at Microsoft. I know UNICEF is, and the countries that we're working are also committed to ensuring that we've got a tailored strategy that is truly sustainable in each and every country where we operate.
Solarization.
And solar is another key component for the energy side of it, absolutely. So Mac, back to you.
Thanks, Justin. I think that sustainability is something on everyone's mind here, especially you talk about technology and really capitalizing on the gains made, but changing systems in the process. And I think that what we've heard today, especially from our colleagues, is nothing less than systems change. It's impressive, and it's incredibly overwhelming to hear, almost in a way. So now we'll pass to a Q&A session, everybody. There's a bit of protocol here, so bear with me. You don't need to vote, but if you'd like to speak, please press your power button. That will log a list of your seats, and then we can go via the order, I guess, in which you came in. So again, the button on the left-hand panel below your microphone will log you in to ask a question, and we can go from there. As some come in, I see 197 is question 1, so 197, over to you. Oh, sorry. Your microphone would light up when you're cleared.
Oh, it's me?
Oh, sorry. Light up.
Great. I saw red, and I thought that meant stop.
This is obviously my first time here. It would light up green if you're pending, I believe, and red if you're active.
Okay, excellent. Well, first I had a question actually for our audience. Please raise your hand if you speak Spanish. Okay, so you understood our honorable minister, but many of the rest of us did not. And according to the World Bank, 40% of the world does not have access to education in a language they speak. And that's one major reason why so many children can't read a basic story. Now, Mexico has done an excellent job of bilingual education in indigenous languages for many years. And Zimbabwe permits 16 languages in education according to the 2006 education law. Laos, unfortunately, does not allow any minority languages, so 50% of children go to school in a language they do not understand. My concern with the digital transformation is that if we only focus on big languages, English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, we will lose out on so many children. And these digital tools are easily adapted in multiple languages. You don't have the cost of printing textbooks. You don't even have to hire teachers who speak those languages. And the children and the parents can interact around digital materials that the parents can understand. So my challenge would be that if we are not going to leave anyone behind, please include minority languages in these wonderful tools that you're developing. Thank you.
From a UNICEF perspective, and this is music to my age, marginalization is when you go onto the internet and there's nothing you can read in a language you understand. It's not just an access question, right? I have the internet, but nothing I can read. Microsoft Community Training, the Learning Passport supports 56 languages. Some of those we translate actually on our own. We run into a lot of interesting translation questions in the Balkans, for example, where you have Serbo-Albanian, etc. So we support 56 language. We can rapidly adopt new languages. We work with our Microsoft partners to deploy those as the bones of the platform. The Learning Passport itself is agnostic to the type of content and the language that it's in. So we can take anything, in any language, from anywhere. But I do think that's an incredible point. So thanks to...
I'd just like to add to that.
Please, Justin.
Again, I think it is a key point, and it gets me thinking, Mac, about the work we're doing in a Microsoft research around low-resource language translation, using machine learning to automate some of the translation of these languages into content that then can be consumed through Learning Passport or any other platform, and something we should be considering as we go forward.
It's a great point. Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll try to move through here. We already have a number of questions. 56 is the next question. There, yes.
Thank you again. I am Manon Moussa, and I'm the Dutch United Nations Youth Representative. First of all, congratulations on the thing that you created. I would very much like to ask you how you involved youth in the process of creating the Learning Passport in order to make sure that you meet their needs.
I'll go first. Thank you. Incredible question, and very important. User-centered design and research is something that we hear a lot about. Truly, I can tell you that the Learning Passport itself, the first missions that happened were to Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh and Dadaab, one of the biggest refugee camps in the north of Kenya, to actually work with the tooling and young people to understand their abilities to interact with the software. I think a lot of old people like me figure that young people can just work technology and they magically understand it. But some things work better than others. Some things make more sense than others. And the very first steps of the Learning Passport, and Justin probably remembers this, were with kids. And that was the point of departure. That was the beginning of the program. And from there, I think we've refined and moved the technology. But I appreciate that intervention. I think it's very important from the very beginning that we involved learners. Justin, care to add?
I think you answered it perfectly.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, 76, please.
Hello. Thank you to all the panelists for their contributions. I'd like to ask a question about applications for displaced and refugee learners in particular, and how the Learning Passport is being used currently for that demographic. It was a real privilege to be part of the early development of the Learning Passport as part of the University of Cambridge. Our team worked with Mac and with colleagues at Microsoft, and it's great to see the way that the Learning Passport has developed and bloomed into other applications. One of the findings from the research that we worked on was the importance of coherence and continuity for displaced learners with regards to the curricula that they have access to. And one of the things that Cambridge are continuing to do with UNICEF and Cox's Bazar is mapping the relationship between Bangladeshi and Myanmar curricula so that as we saw in the video, the movement of Rohingya learners can be facilitated back into the curriculum that they want to be part of. And so I have a question for all of the panelists is I'm interested in hearing more about the ways in which materials used on the platform are selected and quality is ensured to allow for alignment between what is learned and what is being aspired to within those curricula, so that they're coherent and that the learners actually get the content that they need to make those movements that is necessary for their continuity back into school systems, wherever that may be. Thanks.
That's a hard one, but it's a good one. I would expect no less. I think it speaks to really not trying to govern things from a global level and working country by country with colleagues that are seated here at the table. We're especially facing a lot of challenges around this in the Ukraine response. And I know there's some colleagues from Poland here that may even want to talk about that. But UNICEF's strength is our ability to work hand in hand with governments in countries. And we have devolved that. I think that your organization, Cambridge, actually gave us a stepping stone in that ability to approach governments with a way to think about things rather than a prescription of how to think about them. And I think that the decentralized nature of the way that UNICEF does its business, which is hand in hand with colleagues, like this happens every day in many different capitals around the world, right? Except it's normally just coffee and lunch rather than a big room like this. But the decentralized nature of the organization speaks to the need to contextualize a response when it comes to curriculum and any other approaches. But thanks. If anyone has anything to add.
Yeah, the one thing I'd say is, within Learning Passport, depending on the country, there's learning experiences around literacy, arithmetic, socio-emotional learning, digital skills. It's a pretty wide range. But when we look at the learning crisis today and we look at learning poverty, it is a poverty of literacy. Before age 10, you're reading to learn. After age 10, you're using that reading to grow and really expand. And so one thing that I think we've been considering is, certainly as we think about the future, is how do we use literacy and look at a common framework for literacy that could be applied in a consistent manner to really tackle this crisis head on. And I know that's a little bit in the kitchen, Mac, on our conversation, but hey, we're all friends here, right?
We are, and we just talked about this about 4 days ago. So now it's my job to make it happen, of course. But yes, I think that we will see more about literacy, tighter focuses. Those are areas that you can talk about broader approaches. Or more replicable approaches, specifically literacy, numeracy, those type of things. But thanks, it's a great intervention. Okay, I saw 194 was on and off. 194 is up. Yes, over to 194, please.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Her and His Excellencies gathering here today for a very important topic about transforming education, which is, I think, the biggest challenge nowadays and the biggest issue that we need not to forget about, because we are talking about a lot of challenges around the world, but if we don't teach in a proper way with the usage of technology, etc., it would be not sufficient for all the societies. But I would like to talk about solidarity. Solidarity between everyday people on the streets, between public sector and private sector, and between nations. And since the onset of the war, the Russian aggression on Ukraine on the 24th of February, 6.30 million of Ukrainian refugees crossed the border with Poland. And it is to make you imagine what the number is for us. It's 20% of our population, Polish population. So a lot of people cross the border with Poland. And I will tell you that from the onset of the war, no refugee camps were built in Poland. Why? Because all Poles get Ukrainians to their houses and homes. And what we are doing for our brothers and sisters, of course, every single citizen is supporting Ukrainian in Poland and any other place around the world. And thank you very much also for your participation, all the people from around the world for that. But also we are cooperating with international organizations like UNICEF and big tech companies like Microsoft regarding Learning Passport. We have signed the agreement with these organizations, and we provided the materials that are at the learning that are present on the Learning Passport on our Polish platform. Why? Because all those students, Ukrainian students, are taken on board on our schools. So from day one, also our schools were open. Yes, so any Ukrainian or any other refugee is welcomed, more than welcomed, to our schools. Why? Because you need also to remember that 97% of people that cross the border, refugees from Ukraine to Poland, are ladies. Those ladies needs to work, and of course we give rights, the same rights to Ukrainians as for Polish citizens, so they can take up jobs from day one. But when they are going to work, they need to send students, of course, to schools. So Polish schools are open. Already we have more than 200,000 Ukrainian students in Polish schools. And thanks to cooperation with UNICEF and Microsoft, we also deliver materials that are held in English and in Ukrainian language in order to support this learning at our schools much more convenient for them. And I would love to great thanks to UNICEF, Microsoft, and all other companies and international organizations that support Ukraine, either in Ukraine or in Poland or in other countries where Ukrainians are. And also I am open to other cooperation, and don't hesitate to contact us. We are here till Tuesday in New York, so we are open to other cooperations with other countries, other international organizations, and of course for companies and individual persons. So thank you very much, and great love from Poland to the whole world and for Ukraine. Thank you.
Thanks to the Polish delegation. I'm sure they'll be happy to speak to any of you afterwards. So we're out of time. We have some closing words from Justin here. Thanks again, everyone, for coming. Yeah, great to see you. Over to you, Justin.
No, thank you for attending this event. Thank you, Minister, and thank you for our panelists. We are so inspired by the work that's being done here around the world. I'd say if you're in the room and you're in the private sector, you're an NGO, you're a foundation, we want to talk to you to learn how we can combine our resources, combine our capabilities, move farther, move faster. If you're in the room and you've deployed Learning Passport or deploying Learning Passport, we want to hear from you. We want to fix what's broken. We want to build on success. We want to take best practices and replicate them. And if you are thinking about deploying Learning Passport, reach out to your UNICEF representative, and we're going to stand behind you and support you all the way. So with that, I'll say thank you very much. I hope you have a great several days, and thank you to our panelists. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the Transforming Education Summit.
Thank you, Michi. Bye-bye.
I actually have to, we're working with the ministry there. So we would love to talk to her. It's already,
and we'll take a look at that, especially for
But one major concern is values and life skills, especially
I think there's tons to talk about. We're literally, I have to go
bring a pencil and a pen. Let's make sure I can.
Today, because we're going to start working on at least one of the offline stuff itself. So we'd love to talk to you about it.
Okay, great.
Provide you a card. I'd be happy to
Come on up here, Britt.